Well, hi. Today is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. Glad to be back in the saddle again. You may not have realized it, but I actually left town for a few days. Just got some shows done ahead of time, but spent a few days in Wisconsin. Got to take in some scenery. It was absolutely beautiful. The weather was wonderful, and I had a very relaxing time. And back in the studio and ready to get after it again. And today, it's just going to be me. Well, I am going to bring you a clip of Travis Waldstein's latest podcast, Circle of Trades, but there's a reason for that, because there's a point that I'm making here today. We're going to talk a little bit about integrity, and we're going to talk about the reason why it is so important and how it relates to my industry, not only the industry that I'm in now, but also the previous industry that I was in, which they're very, very similar. There's very little that is a difference, but we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. First, if you are feeling stuck in uncertainty, conflict, or miscommunication, The Spiral of Accountability is a book written by local Council Bluffs author Carol Horner, and it's your guide to breaking free from the fog that clouds decision-making and relationships. Learn how to recognize negative cycles, shift your mindset, and build a culture of clarity and collaboration at work, at home, and in life. So if you're ready to spiral up, get your copy on Amazon or visit her website, spiralofaccountability.com. Start your journey to a healthier, more productive team. GT Motors on Broadway in Council Bluffs has an ever-changing inventory that will help get you in a quality used vehicle. Trucks, large and small SUVs, passenger cars, sports cars, motorcycles. GT Motors can help. Check out their inventory at gtmotorscb.com. But it might be better if you stop on the lot at 21st and Broadway, because sometimes it takes a day or two before the car actually shows up on the website. So you're going to get a firsthand look and maybe see something before somebody else does. So they even provide on-site financing. GT Motors, as we said, 21st and Broadway in Council Bluffs. And AIM Institute brings you Southwest Iowa Free Technical Training, or SWIFT, providing accelerated training for Iowans interested in a career in technology. The program is fully funded by the Charles E. Lakin Foundation, and that means that participants can register at no cost to themselves. Trainings are facilitated by AIM Institute instructors and taught both online and in person at multiple locations around Southwest Iowa. Visit aiminstitute.org to learn more. All right, talking about integrity. And on Travis Waldstein's recent episode of Circle of Trades, he touched on this, talking about his own industry and the importance of not only being licensed, but living up to doing what you say you will do and having the knowledge to get it done right. So I'll tell you what, let's check in with that clip here and learn more from Travis.
When it comes to licensing, I've gotten to a point to where I don't want to say fanatical, but and I will never fault anybody that's trying to do stuff the right way to get your license. But I also expect people to understand the process and to do follow through and do it the way they're supposed to be. And there's some people think, well, I don't need to have a license to do that, do this and do that. I says, well, how are you getting trained? How do you know? There's more than one way to learn. There's military. If you have family in the trade, there's different stuff like that. But, there's, what we run into, we see stuff out there where people that aren't trained, they don't know what the heck they're doing. And they're out, collecting real money to do this work. I mean, there's been a couple contractors, plumbing contractors over here. I'm from Omaha that are not licensed, not registered with the state, come over here taking big money. And then the work they're doing is definitely below standards, to a point where the state's had to get involved. Attorneys have had to get involved to, have that discussion with them. And, that becomes a lose-lose. That gives our industry, or industries, I should say, a bad name, that there's people out there who do that. They're more interested in chasing a dollar than doing work right. Now, that's not to say we don't ever make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but there's a difference between making a mistake and ripping people off. When you, to give you a great example, you do a $30,000 bathroom job and the toilet flange is 1.5 inches off the ground, and you don't run any vents up through the roof, and, you shorted the pipe 4 foot short of going to the outside, and, you're out in the yard digging, and you hit a city wall, you do some other stuff, And it's obvious like whoever did it, A, didn't know how to run a backhoe, but B, doesn't understand your basics as far as plumbing, how stuff's supposed to work, how vents work, how to size the stuff, what the requirement is. But, it says their name on the side of there, so that means they're a professional. And, unfortunately, the city tries to enforce it, but the state of Iowa took it out of their hands, when they came up with the state licensing. And there's not enough enforcement around the state on the HVAC and plumbing side. Plumbers is totally different, or electricians is totally different ballgame. When they gave the state licensing, the Department of Public Safety was smart, and they got their inspection requirements in. What they did, the paperwork, the Plumbing Mechanical Systems Board waited a year. There happened to be an election. Well, the guy that they had on board with it lost, and so when that happened, kind of some of the traction that had been made had been falling behind. But, my position is for what we pay for fees, what we pay for licensing, for what we pay into the state, what are we getting for that? And where are they at in this inspection process? And I think it would do everybody in the industry good if we had inspectors around from the state, if they're going to enforce it, make sure people are carrying cards, make sure they're doing stuff to standard. I've just seen enough stuff out there. I'm really tired of it.
As Travis was talking about that, it got me thinking about media. I've been part of the media since 1993, 1994. First got into it and started to learn my way around. And when I began, things were still done really old school. And there are still a few places that are doing things this way, that they're covering local events. They're going to school board meetings. They're going and covering county commissioner meetings. They have their finger on the pulse of the community in which they are serving. And they are, I don't even want to say that they are the voice of the community. I prefer to think of it the same way that I do with what I'm doing here. I'm a conduit. I am a way for other people to get their voices heard. This is a platform for that. And media can be that. And in some places it still is. Now, where we are, I don't think it is. Let's have a hard conversation here for a second. And while I'm saying this, I don't want you to think that I'm pointing fingers at anybody that's currently employed by the media in our area. I don't think that, they're doing what they can with limited resources. Our local newspaper has been essentially gutted. There's very, very few people that work there compared to what it used to be. When I first moved to Southwest Iowa in the late 90s, our local newspaper from Council Bluffs was everywhere. They had many people and staff in all of the different departments covering everything. And they made sure that they were a source of local information, and not just a source, but the source. They were the ones that you went to when you needed to know something. And they just don't have the staff to be able to do it anymore. As many of you know, that I was involved with the launch of a local radio station here, and I tried to do that here, and it didn't really work out all that well. And I ended up having to leave because I couldn't get anybody to buy into the philosophy that I knew was right. And knowing and being who I am, I couldn't stop doing it. And eventually the hours just got to be too much, and I had to leave. When somebody calls themselves live and local, but 90% of their programming is pre-recorded, and probably more than 90%, are they really live and local? I don't think so. And that is what has happened to local media in markets all across the country. It's not just here. It has happened many places. And as I said, there are still some places that are doing it correctly. And guess what? They're financially solvent. They're doing well by doing things that way. But what happens is corporations come in and they buy up local media outlets, could be radio, could be print, could be television, and they start consolidating jobs, and they start letting people go, local people, good people that were good at their jobs, but because the corporations bought it, in an effort to just be able to raise their listener numbers overall, so they could say that for national ads, hey, we've got this many, so we can charge this much. and localism just gets thrown out the window. This is reality. This is what's going on inside of my chosen industry, which, by the way, I'm doing it this way now because I can control the narrative a little bit. I can actually go out and cover local events. We can have local people on. We can talk about Pour Into Avoca. We can talk about the local farmers market. We can talk about, if you look at the other show for today that we have, Local Roots, when I had the director of cross country of track and field at Iowa Western Community College, Mark Beerbaum, on. If you're watching this show early, that'll be released at 8 a.m. today. But tremendous amount of success, and they're not getting any coverage. And there's a few places that do, but they are so watered down by how much they have to cover that they cannot give it any real coverage. And those young men and women that have achieved so much at a local secondary institution, we're talking national championships here, that aren't getting any coverage because the local media is essentially gone. And what we do have can't do it because they don't have the resources, they don't have the staff, and a lot of times they no longer have the knowledge on how to do it. And that bothers me. It really bothers me because things used to be different, and it wasn't that long ago. Now, again, there are some places that are doing it correctly. One comes to mind that is a former employer of mine. It's KMA in Shenandoah. They've been around. This year is 100 years that radio station has been around, and they are hyper local, but they also have a number of counties. They're covering 12 counties just in Iowa, plus they're covering northwest Missouri and southeast Nebraska, and it's a lot. So they do a wonderful job with what they do, but they're a regional station. They're not a local station. They can't dive in really deep. I know once upon a time, I haven't heard them for a long time, but KCSI in Red Oak did a great job of covering what was going on in Red Oak. So again, there are places that are doing it, but for the most part, I'm seeing more and more local people getting laid off. And this is something that also bothers me, is that to get somebody to talk about the health of media that's no longer in it, I don't think there's nobody positive about it. And I know very, very talented people that lose their jobs, very talented people. And I mean, more talented than me. There's some tremendous talent and personalities out there that are no longer on the air because of corporate cutbacks. And there's a number of large corporations that are like that. And I got caught up in one of those layoffs myself, and it hurts. It's hard. Your fate is decided by somebody who never met you. You're just a number on a page. And that's what media has become. I'm talking about local media here. If you want to have a conversation about national media, that's a completely different story. That has turned into, I can tell who wrote a story based on the headline. I mean, I know what news organization wrote it based on what the headline is, and that should not be. And I don't care what side of the fence you fall on. It shouldn't be that way. So, but this is mainly about local media. So we're doing what we can here. This is a different delivery method than what I have used in the past. This is done completely online. But because of that, it opens things up. It's a little more freeing. I no longer have certain criteria that I have to hit. I don't have some consultant who is listening and trying to give me orders and advice on a market that he doesn't know anything about. And yes, that's happened. So I know I'm coming across as a little bit jaded here right now. But the problem is that nobody's listening. And the communities are crying out for it. There's a reason why this show has had the success that it's had since I launched it last October. It's because the community wants to have this type of coverage. And the fact that nobody else is doing it shocks me. It just shocks me. It's more. I listen to local radio in the Omaha market, and they're all talking about the same things because they all get the same prep service. And it's essentially the same show. So guess what? If you are still on the air, you want a piece of advice from me, and I am not a consultant. I will never be one, but here's a piece of advice. Throw the prep services out and just do your show locally. Talk about local issues. That's what people want to hear. I don't care what the consultant says. So anyway, that's my little soapbox speech here for today. I'm a little bit irritated right now because I keep hearing over and over, well, what happened to the local newspaper? Well, why doesn't Council Bluffs get the type of coverage that we deserve? I'm doing what I can here, but I'm just one guy. I do not have the time to go and cover all of the different meetings. I'm hoping that this can grow into that and we can start adding staff and we can actually do some true local coverage and start having somebody sitting at the school board meetings and start having someone sitting at the county commissioner meetings or the city council meetings or all of these different things where decisions are being made that affects everyday people's lives. Is there any press there anymore? I don't know because, I know there's local news directors on the radio that don't even live in the state in which they're reporting on. They just get the information that somebody else wrote online somewhere and they rewrite it and push it out as their own. Yeah, that happens. I know that it happens because I've seen it happen and it bothers me a lot. So when I see someone like Travis Waldstein, as we showed you earlier, stand up for what he knows is right in his own industry, it's time for me to do the same. That enough's enough. We need to get back to what it is that we're doing. And that's what I'm going to do slowly. We're bringing it to where things ought to be. Local coverage so citizens in our communities know what's going on. And we do not have the resources anymore to be able to do that, but I know that the desire is there. So if you hang with me, we're going to get there. We're going to slowly get there. And I am optimistic about everything that I'm seeing. I'm optimistic about the numbers that I see on this show and how many views that it gets. I'm optimistic of the response that I hear in the community, and also with the sponsors' response. I mean, we have a lot of local businesses. You see this scroll going along the bottom of the screen here. Those are folks that have invested in what's going on at Les Hills Media and Podcast, and I am eternally grateful to each and every one of you. And I am looking forward to adding even more, although this show's getting really close to being sold out, because it can't just be nothing but advertising. We also have to have the content. So that is coming. But I hear you. I've heard so many people talk about it that it's just we don't have anybody covering us anymore. And I'm sorry, but just being on the air and having somebody in a radio studio a few hours a day, a few days a week, that's not local coverage. Sorry, it's just not. So you want to call yourself that, you're entitled to do it. It's a free country, and we've got freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say, but I'm going to disagree with you. It's not. So there we go. How's that? Hopefully it wasn't too hard of a rant. In the meantime, since 1870, Avela Bank has been providing Iowans with high-quality financial products and services to fit their needs. Whether you need a loan, would like to start a new business account, need to save some money for a trip, or maybe you're just looking to open a personal checking account, Avela's qualified bankers can help you with all that and more. They are a local bank right here locally. That I'm just going to get local printed on a T-shirt and start wearing it everywhere. Avela.bank is their website, and they are doing some great things here in town, and they're also a great sponsor to have here on Morning Coffee. Another great sponsor is S&B Country Kennel. You know, he's become the top spot in Southwest Iowa when you need to know your dog will receive only the best. Boarding, daycare, grooming, self-washing, training, and even a membership available to a dog park over an acre in size. If you're not following S&B Country Kennel on social media, you should be, because they're starting to post a ton of videos of just what it's like there for your dog. Your dog will learn how to speak just to say thank you. S&B Country Kennel is located just west of I-29 on Buggy Avenue, south of Council Bluffs. And if you're navigating the healthcare system, you know it can be challenging, frustrating, and time-consuming for you and your family. That's where My Nurse Healthcare in Council Bluffs steps in. Nurse advocates provide one-on-one guidance and support every step of the way. With a dedicated nurse by your side, you're going to get the right care from the right provider at the right time. MyNurseHealthcare.com is the website. They also have a phone number, 402-250-8465. Let them take the stress out of healthcare. Thank you very much for listening to my rant today. As I said, we are growing things here as I am able to afford to bring on employees to start covering things. We will get more and more local coverage out there. You know, it needs to be done, and no one's doing it. And why, I don't know. I don't understand why they think it's not profitable or that it's not needed. Of course it is. To both of those things. The community wants it. I hear it from business owners all the time. And we're going to be that source for you. And I'm hoping others will learn and come along with me because I can't do it by myself. We need more than one outlet covering things. And it's good to have more than one voice. It's good to have more than one vantage point. And, somebody may see something that I don't. All of these things are good. So I'm hopeful that somebody will listen and come along with me for the ride because it's here. And I know that everything is going to be very, very successful. All right. That's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me on this Wednesday. I'm looking forward to having a very successful day. I hope you are too. My name's Todd Studer. We'll see you back here again tomorrow morning.